So I'm here with James Kinkaid. We're sitting in actually a restaurant called Home Plate, which is a barbecue place in Beijing, which the irony is awesome. And not to mention the fact that they play country, folky, American-style music.
It's just like home.
It's just like home. We're here once again with the podcast that Iga.
上了一个啤酒。
Yes, yeah. Okay, so, sorry, we're here once again with conversations in the time of the virus. And just basically talking about Beijing, and specifically today we're speaking again with a friend and a former colleague who is an educator here in Beijing, amongst many other things. And so I'd love to hear, James, a little bit about your journey, please.
Well, I first got to Beijing back in May of 2016. I came over to, teach and live life of adventure and live abroad and get a taste of life outside of America. And started as a teacher, and I've worked my way into administration roles, and now I oversee 80 to 100 teachers and 20 training centers in Beijing. So it's been a very interesting ride these last 4 years.
Yeah, it is. Beijing alone is an interesting ride, and then to hit your stride as far as your career is concerned here in a non-American city has got to be an interesting and rewarding.
Rewarding, it's scary, it's challenging, because anybody that comes to China has to face a lot of realities about themselves and about their own culture, and then there's the culture shock aspect, and you adapt or die.
True, you adapt or leave. You're absolutely right. You die in Beijing. New York killed me. I left after, God, what was I there, 2 years? I couldn't take it. But I was 18 years old, so,
Yeah, but you would figure at a younger age it's easier to adapt.
You would, wouldn't you? I guess I was a bit of a mama's boy. I have no idea.
What did you find so challenging about New York?
At the time, it was the isolation. I still wasn't used to being me, I guess. But I'm not sure. I really have to think. I don't think about it anymore. I remember fondly working every day learning Shakespeare. So that part of it is the part I've chosen to focus on. And it, in fact, did change my life and my mental capacity. I think I was a little bit stupid before that. And I had the capacity for language, and I knew that to a certain extent, but I didn't really realize it until then. And while I was not the most talented actor, I certainly loved the language, and that became a lifelong love affair. And so a lot of that has to do with the fact that this isn't video. It's we're talking. Love to listen.
Yeah.
And not be distracted by visual. Because the movies are great, and I love movies, old and new, even bad ones. But they're not the same as a weaving of a tale in the mind or listening to somebody speak. So that's kind of why I'm doing these.
Well, what's interesting is you talk about isolation, but when we come into China, I don't know about you, but I know for me, my first year was incredibly isolated, and it's very challenging, and it brings a lot of your demons to surface if you haven't wrestled with them.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting that it was more difficult at a younger age, and then we come in, we're a little bit later in life.
True.
So what's different this time? That's something I keep asking myself. How was I able to get through it this time? Well,
I think we all come into our time, don't we? I mean, I didn't really take off in my own career until I realized I didn't want to be an actor. And then I ended up doing educational issues and writing educational material as an instructional designer. And then realizing I didn't want to work for anybody else, I broke out on my own. That turned out to be the best decision I've ever made, because it allowed me a lot of things that I know I would never have had. And while I had to buy my own insurance and et cetera, I was making enough money to do that. So later in life, I think we have the, it's almost a kind of combination of I give up, or I'm not, and let's see what this is. You know, it's the understanding that this may not work. Maybe it's not as negative as I just made it sound.
No, but I do think now that you say that, I think those of us that have been able to adapt to life in China, that is the key ingredient. Is that we have accepted that there are just some things out of our control, and we don't let it throw us. We learn to adapt, change our game plan, and continue moving forward. And, you know, since I have been working with teachers that are new to China, I've noticed the ones that are extremely rigid, they don't survive. So I think maybe that's the difference for us, is we have realized that there are just some things that we're not going to change.
I've been watching I've been making the mistake of focusing on Facebook lately for information and listening to what people are saying. And I think it's in the sense that it is a little older crowd. I could never handle Twitter because it's, 7% of the population, and they're all really pissed about one thing or another. And I'd be just like, And I ran into a guy today who, a true troll, I'd say today, I mean a week ago, a true troll who just was not interested in arguing but insulting. So anything you posit, and of course, as you know, I'm a relatively conservative individual, but I'm not unopen to the idea that maybe I'm wrong. We've had discussions, and so the idea is that I was asking. We were talking specifically about Antifa. Somebody posted a meme that says, which is funny, if we threw a billionaire into a volcano, do you think it would appease the virus god? Which is funny. And I said no, but there are some bike wielding Antifa and what was the other thing I mentioned that are being screened. And so some guy just went nuts. You know, he was like, well, Antifa's a good thing. And I'm like, okay, demonstrably not. And let me just tell you why. And I listed a few things that I said that I thought were unacceptable in terms of freedom of speech and et cetera. And we had this, it was one-sided because what he immediately did was, you stupid fat bastard. You know, he didn't say fat bastard.
The ad hominem.
He just went, he immediately went there, calling my argument stupid, but not telling me why.
Right.
And I just went, okay, and your point is, and I kept typing that, and it pissed him off even more. And I said, okay, I give up. You win. You're right. And then I wrote a post that says, okay, so what do we agree on? I hate fascists. Oh, wait, that's too easy. I like beer. Do you like beer? I like to work on my motorcycle. Do you like to work on your motorcycle?
People have forgotten to find common ground.
Yeah, really true. And I got no response. What I did get was a response. I did get one response, and it was somebody who posted a video of the troll song, which again is funny, but you just go, okay. And I wrote, I give up, and I blocked the guy. I have never blocked anybody, but I thought, you know what? I can't keep going through this. I'm here because my cousin, my beloved cousin Gina, is on there, and I want her to see my posts. She keeps track of me. She's all that's left, and her and her sisters, all my cousins.
But it's interesting. I mean, let's talk about trolling. I mean, you and I are polar opposites politically.
True.
We are still able to have that conversation, but you got me a MAGA hat for my birthday. So
it was a joke gift. It was funny.
Right, but it is trolling in its own gentle way. I appreciated the humor, and it was a good laugh. But, there are some people that are very malicious about it.
Well, I did tell you could burn it in effigy, right? So it's not like, and I told you, this is not something I would ever wear. So, I mean, I'm not that.
No, but it's going for the button. But I will say it did make me laugh, and it made me laugh all day. But in all honesty, you were the only person I would have taken that from. The others, I would have told them where they can shove that hat.
Well, James, we bonded on such a different level before we even got to politics. You were very helpful when I was up there stuck at Yuanda. You were very helpful when, honestly, just sitting down and getting drunk with you was a real ball. Oh, yeah.
I missed that place. I wish they didn't close it.
Yeah. Well, 45 is open.
Oh.
Great Leap 45, and it's closed. It's much smaller, but that's where I interviewed Mark. It's not too bad.
That was the place. I mean, we met there on a weekly basis for a while when we were going through some hard times with our former employer, who shall remain nameless.
Yes.
No, but
she doesn't have to remain nameless. I just don't want to say,
Well, this isn't about them.
Yeah, good point.
It's just,
She shall then therefore remain nameless.
yeah, we're not giving free marketing here.
Yeah.
Anyways, but no, it's just very interesting. I think that moving abroad challenges you on a very, very fundamental level.
Yeah.
And if you're self-aware and you take self-growth very seriously, it can be very positive. But it's going to make you get to the bottom of a lot of issues. You know, I know we've talked about it before. You know, a lot of people in their first year turn to things like alcohol, food, even sex. Like they look at everything for coping mechanisms. It's what happens after that year. That's where the magic begins if they tough it out.
Yeah, you kind of reach a magic point. At least I have, and I've noticed this in other people. There's a 3 to 4 year mark that you just go, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
This is my town now.
Yeah.
To the extent that it's possible that it's my town. Yeah.
Right. We will always be visitors in one aspect, but it is still our home.
The Chinese will make sure of that.
Well, yeah. Well, come on. We are Laowai. We are foreigner. I mean, the very term never allows us to belong, but we're comfortable here. We have a community. We have each other. Because foreigners in Beijing, we all know each other.
True.
Right? And we do
or
take
know
care
of each other. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. You know, I think, cause I heard there was like 50,000 foreigners here. So if you really think about it, it's like we're a small town inside a big city.
It's true. A very big city. But, you know, Brittany was commenting about how there's maybe 500 foreigners in her town, which is what again?
Changsha? Or, I don't know.
No.
One of those other...
Isn't that weird? I can never remember things. Yeah. Anyway, beautiful city, great province, but she says it's kind of the sticks. And that there's a lot of buildings that don't have people in them. It was one of those cities that they built, you know.
If you build it.
And she says they've been relatively unaffected by the virus, which is kind of another topic we should eventually turn to. I was just, I was commenting on the fact that I don't actually know anybody that has it.
I'm unfortunate.
Back home?
I know 5 people back home that have been diagnosed with it.
Oh, shit.
Thankfully, though, it seems that their symptoms have been relatively mild. I don't know anybody that's been placed into ICU yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're in the center. Like, we're in China in the middle of all of this, and I don't know a single person.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, though, I was talking about this with my dad this morning. There was a cough that was going around in December, and it kind of makes us wonder.
That's a theory I've heard, that many of us have had it already and are immune. And I'm not talking about just white people. I'm talking about a huge percentage of China.
Well, I don't know the immune because I've heard of reinfection happening. There's just so many theories out there.
Yeah,
but
I know it.
I think that this has already worked its way through the population once before we were even knowledgeable.
I think that's true.
So, you know, I had a cough that wouldn't quit for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then,
I did too, come to think of it. I thought it was smoking, but then it turned out to be congesty,
yeah.
You know?
I felt the pressure in the lungs. I think, well, I have to sleep with the CPAP, which is essentially a ventilator.
Yeah. Me too.
So for me, I'm like, oh, I have a ventilator at home. But then there's this theory going around that people with type O blood have milder symptoms. People with the A, B, or AB types have more severe symptoms.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's so much that is unknown
There's a lot going on. There's a new study out of Britain that says that in fact it's just going to stop at some point. That this disease doesn't carry the way we think it does.
Well, I mean, whatever happened to SARS? I mean, did we just stop talking about it, or did it actually go away?
It burned itself out, but we also didn't we end up with a vaccine?
Yeah, we did. I think it even got patented. So I think the United States was involved with that and then deployed that.
Well, yeah, that's when we still had manufacturing for those things in the United States. Sorry, this is my what the hell are you doing, United States? It kind of rose out of the dark, muddy recess that I throw all that U.S. stuff into when I realized that people I know were hoarding toilet paper.
Yes, I had to have a serious talk with my stepmom and my father today. I think we need to begin some recovery programming.
Yeah.
My name is Dave, and I am a toilet paper hoarder. I give in to panic buying.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I was embarrassed by the way they were behaving, and it was something I did. A couple of people asked me about it with that kind of look, and I was like, I don't even want to talk about this. I don't know what my country's doing.
Well, if anything we've learned is that when people are under stress, they will always act irrationally, and they have herd mentality.
Yeah.
How many people actually stepped back and said, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this is stupid.
Very few. Very few.
That is freaking toilet paper.
Yeah, and then talking about bidets like they were some sort of revelation. I'm like, really? I've had one for years. I buy those modular ones you can put on your regular toilet.
And every Muslim country has the little water spigot next for our hygiene. I mean, we're going to go that way with paper. Come on, friends. I mean, it would make sense to be hoarding dry goods like rice and beans, things that are going to keep for a long time that you will actually use.
Well, there was a run on canned goods as well, and that just made me realize that there are people in my family who probably don't even need that. They can every year, and they have for decades. And
because Grandma and Grandpa remember the Great Depression.
Absolutely right. That's a lot of that came from my folks. My dad even canned. He liked to can beets because my mother liked to can beets. And then we would grow. We had a fairly large garden for a while, and then it kind of went away. He stopped doing that. So.
The country life. But, those of us in Beijing don't exactly have a little garden in the back.
I wish I did in a way. I've been trying to grow houseplants, but I keep knocking my cactuses over. So I can't seem to do that right either.
Poor Corona, though. Look at all the bad marketing.
Yes, or all the free marketing. I guess there's people out there defiantly drinking Corona beer like it means something, and I'm like,
And then there are people avoiding it.
Yeah, yeah, those are the ones you got to worry about.
Let me give you a little highbrow side eye right here, because that is just the most insane thing ever.
Yeah.
It just made me realize how it just, come on. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to insult anybody. If you're not going to drink Corona beer because you think you're going to get coronavirus from it, then you deserve not to have the beer.
You need to sue your high school. Well, so virus-wise, you personally, how do you feel about it?
Well, the first thing I say to
I mean
anybody,
anything.
It's a natural occurrence of nature. First thing is it's a zoonotic illness, and this is what's going to happen when humanity intermingles with the animal kingdom that closely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of theories going around about people eating bats, this, that, and the other. You know what? That's all irrelevant at this point. At some point, a lot of those viruses jump. What we are learning is that the medical systems that we have, the infrastructure systems in all the countries, are incapable of handling medical disaster. That is the number one thing that we're learning right now. Every ICU is packed to capacity, and we still have people. And now, that's the other realization that we have, is that people eventually get reduced to cost-benefit analysis, which is really sad and depressing because there's no sense of human value in the end.
Did you see that headline about the United States hospitals?
With the DNR?
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's go back to Italy. Italy told everybody 80 and over, I believe, that, look, if you have it, you're not getting treatment. We need to focus on the younger. That's cost-benefit analysis.
There's a lawyer in a D.C., I believe, about 56 years old, and it was on a conservative Twitter guy. Blue check, though, so he's not like an idiot. Of course, you know what I mean. So the point is that he said, basically that we need to consider the idea of getting people back to work because we can't hold the entire nation hostage for 2.5% of the population. And of course, it was crudely put and really rough, and everybody got their feathers ruffled. And then you stop for a minute and you look at it and you go, he may be right.
Yeah, but here is the paradox.
Yeah.
You can overreact, but you will never know if it's an overreaction. If you do underreact and don't do enough, then you are going to absolutely know.
Yeah.
So in this case, isn't it better to opt for the better good and overreact to prevent it from escalating? We've all seen the graphs. We're trying to flatten the curve. We're trying to keep the hospitals from being overwhelmed like Wuhan was.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest issue. So, I think in this case, overreaction is better. Yes, the economy is going to take a huge hit. Absolutely. We know this because last week we have the largest number in history applying for unemployment benefits.
I know it. And a $2 trillion with possible increases bill signed by the president.
But that's the other thing. I, as a liberal, would look at this and say we have to come to terms with the fact that systemically we're unprepared to support our country. We're walking on thin ice and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
These types of things are going to increase.
That's got nothing to do with being a liberal. That's practical. That's
Right.
I think most conservatives believe that on some level. As to the reasons why, that may be where the discussion is. I don't even know that, but I do agree with you 100%. America has not been self-sustainable for, God, in my lifetime, if you really look at it.
Right. And, you know, I think one of the reasons I am a liberal is that I do believe in the value of public service. I do believe there are people that dedicate their lives to serving the public.
Yes.
And I think that there is a lot of honor in that kind of a career. I don't, and this is where my bias comes in, I feel that a lot of conservatives look at them as moochers because they're not, quote unquote, adding value. But I believe they are because they are living a life of service. We still need to have that aspect in our communities.
We've lost it, haven't we? I reached out to my parents. I shouldn't be talking about this. I reached out to my parents and said, is there any place I can volunteer? Because I feel like I know I would do this at home. Number one, I'd go mop floors in a hospital if that's what it takes. I'm not picky about volunteer work. I'm not getting paid, so what the hell damn difference does it make?
Right.
And I've been running into, oh, you're a foreigner. But that being said, I couldn't do anything else. I think that idea of unification is missing from my side of the aisle and more your side of the aisle. I think there's in Americans in general, there's a lack of, it's why this whole thing took so long. It took, an extra 10 days to get a bill that, needed to be done because everybody was too corporate, too not corporate enough, too, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And absolutely going out of their mind, throwing in things that had nothing to do with the bill.
Correct.
I don't think those things shouldn't happen. I just think they shouldn't happen now.
Yeah, now's not the time.
Yeah, and so it was really unfortunate to see the way America showed itself to the world. That's what I was embarrassed about. That's what I talk about embarrassment.
But still, there's a point of reckoning where we have to understand the reality of ourselves, and that's it.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's true.
I think we all like to talk about how in the end we're all Americans because we all support the Constitution, this, that, and the other, but the reality is there's two Americas. Either way, demographically you split it. There's the rich, the poor, there's city, country, liberal, conservative. No matter whatever, we are split, we are divided.
Yeah.
And
the worst part, I think, is that some of the stuff we've gotten over seems to be raising its head again, like racial, or sex, or gender, or whatever. There's a lot of
religion,
things that
sexuality, all of it.
Exactly right.
But see, then, I think those of us who are a little smarter need to ask ourselves, who is profiting from this? Who is getting ahead with this? And even right now with the coronavirus situation at home, my question is, who's profiting from this? What is the government secretly doing while we're distracted?
Yeah, that was, I felt that.
Something is going down. The EPA, and you know how much I love the EPA.
Yeah.
When they decided they were suspending all rules and regulations, I wanted to throw a book out the window because this is the kind of stuff that I think is happening. That's just one little thing that slipped into the media.
Well, and the push, too, for so many things that I felt weren't necessary right now made me think this is really unfortunate. This is like, your parents are getting divorced, make your dad buy you a motorbike.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just like, it felt really, really wrong to me. And granted, it's never going to be perfect because it's a panic bill. And as much as we might like to think we're doing the right thing, there's going to be all kinds of holes at the other end.
Right.
And being Judeo-Christian, we're going to be out there pointing fingers. So I'm concerned that it's going to harm the nation in a way that drives it towards a kind of government that isn't good for the American psyche.
Well, that's just the thing. Even in my lifetime, and even I think maybe for yours, because we're a little different in age, the kind of America that I grew up believing existed, just maybe a little. But you know what I mean? Like the kind of America that I believed in growing up is not the America that I see today. And that kind of cognitive dissonance that I have has been very uncomfortable to hold. Like
I feel the same way.
Yeah, like I believed in this very hopeful beacon of liberty, freedom, democracy, all of this stuff.
City on the hill.
And now I'm looking at it going, okay, you have become a parasitical being that feeds on every opportunity to make a profit at no expense whatsoever. Like people,
how do you change that? You see, this is of course Bernie's argument, and it's a perfectly
Bernie, yes.
It's a perfectly legitimate argument. That being said, his solution to it is something I completely disagree with. So how do we solve that problem? I don't even know. I can't even. I couldn't even. Honestly, I'm not sure I could have the conversation because I'm still seated in the idea that a city on the hill, everybody can earn their way out of, etc., and that's becoming less and less possible.
See, and I think that's where we're different. I never believed it to be possible.
Oh, really? That people can pull themselves up from
I
nothing?
Never believed it. Even since I came into adulthood.
Well, certainly not a majority, but...
Right. I've just never believed it to be possible, which is one of the things that fueled my liberal anger, because I see the system set up to preserve power in its structure as it is. And because I grew up as a poor white person, the only benefit I have really, let's talk white privilege, let's talk male privilege. I own it. I have it, and I understand that it benefits me in some way. But even still, for me, that's not enough for me. I had to leave the country in order for me to find career possibility.
Interesting. You couldn't have done what you're doing now without a lot more, institutionalization. You couldn't have been the maverick you are here.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about you: you're a no-nonsense guy, and that in the halls of academe back in our home country, that's not a thing. You like any institutionalized process, you toe the line until somebody says, "Come forth," and you just stepped in, and the Chinese were looking for a way to make more money, and you had a way to maintain the integrity while doing that, and that's right place, right time. Again, like I said, it's your time.
Yeah, it's sad though, because I will say this: China has given me amazing opportunity, and life has been good here. But there's a part of me that is a little angry because I wanted to have this at home.
Yeah.
I am an American first and foremost, and I always will be. But it makes me angry that this is not possible for me to do in my home country.
No.
And, I understand that the situations are what they are. We have an older generation that cannot afford to retire.
Yeah.
So we have people in the upper echelons of management and all of that are not stepping aside. So those of us who are ready to advance our career are unable to do that. But you know what? The market is the market, and the market brought me to China. But, then we get into situations like the virus, and I think this reveals the true nature of people and businesses. And I'm very lucky. The business that I ended up working for has taken very good care of us. Nobody's been laid off. Everybody's been paid full salary.
Yeah, after many trials, that's true for mine as well. There was an attempt by some people to cut pay in half, and I think that there was a little bit of panic here in China when it first hit.
Of course, there's panic.
People were concerned about money. People were concerned about livelihood. People were concerned about a lot of things. But what I found interesting was, I took a picture and posted it. I didn't post it here, but I posted it on Instagram that showed a picture that I had taken because I was looking for a particular toilet paper brand that I had at home. And so I found it in a store but didn't need any, but took a picture of it.
Right.
And I found that picture. This is 10 days prior to, or a couple days prior to the virus outbreak, before I'd even heard anything, just before the holiday. And then I took a picture 10 days after because I've been hearing about toilet paper hoarding in the United States. And I was going to be snarky and whatever. Turned out the shelves look basically the same. And I thought, fuck, that's just not, that just says something. Now, what does it say? Well, of course, not a communist, never will be. But that being said, what is it about Chinese society and that's happened in the last 100 years were they this way before? Were they calmer with tragedy? Is it because they've had more?
I think that it's rooted in a few things. Number one, this is communist society. So there is a concern, a collectivist type of thinking that I think a lot of Americans aren't used to. Immediately what came out within days of the lockdown and quarantines was the government said, relax, we have enough to supply you for 6 months right now. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And the people here trust their government when they hear that.
Isn't that bizarre? As Americans, we're like,
what?
Government,
sure?
What? Government? Oh, that must be bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's our nature, and it's perfectly understandable historically.
Correct.
So
we take nothing at face value.
Yeah.
We will question you. We will verify. I mean, what was it? Your icon, Ronald Reagan, said, "Trust but verify."
Not my icon, but yeah, he's a pretty good movie actor for B movies.
Yeah. Well,
Ronald Reagan was funny. I've seen some clips of him making jokes he was a very funny man. He made a joke during his last campaign that said, "I will not say anything negative about my opponent. I will not hold them responsible for being younger and inexperienced," which is funny. So anyway, it was very funny.
I was a child during all of that.
Yes, there was a different time. Ronald Reagan is held up by a lot of people to be an icon, but it had mostly to do with his presence and his bearing and the fact that he was there for history. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. It's just
that was an iconic moment. I mean, I was a child, but I still remember watching it come down on TV.
Yes, I remember it too as well. My uncle lived in Berlin at the time. He was an opera singer there. Yeah, he didn't have a lot to say about it. He was one of those people who kind of gone native. And later on, he was known to make comments about how dirty and smelly the East Germans were. I'm like, okay, you're just a bigot. Shut up.
Yeah, the Germans I know have kind of communicated in their nondescript way how difficult it was to integrate.
It had to have been.
There was a huge division culturally that happened, but and then the massive debt that the West Germans took on to bring the East Germans.
And in a way, you got to admire that they're out of that debt, for the most part.
But they still remembered, in essence, what it was to be German. And
maybe that's what we're missing. Maybe there's a certain amount of nationalism, and I don't mean this in the white nationalist sort of way, but maybe we need to find this common American identity.
Well, see, that's when you talk about that, I think of patriotism. I'm a patriot. I am not a nationalist.
Well, I think maybe we might mean the same thing when we say it.
Yeah. I love what our country stands for or stood for.
Yeah.
I love the potential that it has, but I also reject American exceptionalism.
And that's the beauty of being American. Even our now not so fond of her boss, she got in trouble for on Twitter, or not Twitter, WeChat, for basically just saying the government was screwed up. She got kicked off of WeChat, which is
Chinese government. That is one of the rules of social media, and if you're going to swim in the waters and sharks are there, you need to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
But I think that's just come back.
Well, I don't say anything. Isn't that weird? I don't think about it because it's not in my nature to go, fuck Donald Trump or fuck these guys.
I say that at least once a day.
Yeah, you can say it, but
Donald
it's
Trump,
But who posts it on media and doesn't expect backlash? It just never occurs to me to be that. It's more of a club, and I'm not interested in a club. I would, and by that I mean a club you can beat people with. I don't mean. I much more enjoy the raisers. You know what I mean? The guys that actually think and make funny memes about Donald Trump. I laugh at those. They're very funny.
Yeah.
He does some really stupid stuff. And yet, at the same time, I'm not sure I'd want anybody else to be president right now. He's going to do what he does. And I think anyway, I'm not sure that's true.
I miss what Republicans used to be. Like Republicans like Mitt Romney, John Huntsman, they were Republicans I felt I could respect. And honestly, when I lived in Utah, John Huntsman was governor, and I respected his track as a governor for the most part. And to be quite honest, he could have pulled me into the Republican Party. But when I look at, Republicans like Mitch McConnell, I don't even think Donald Trump is a true Republican. I'm just to say that. I think he's pandering to them.
He never has been, really. And that's what one of the complaints Republicans have about him. Right. That's why there's many never-Trumper Republicans.
Yeah, I feel like the Republicans have forgotten their platform.
Yeah.
For them.
Well, and isn't that sad? We've got Republicans who don't remember who they were. And we've got an unbelievably divided Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Between, I hate to say these words, but that's fucking squad and their nutcase nonsense, and Nancy Pelosi, who's completely intractable. And you just go, what is happening? Right, especially now, they're arguing about nonsense when they didn't respond. Nobody responded well to the virus initially, and there's still a huge portion of Washington, D.C. that is not responding well to it now.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, in every Greek tragedy, what is it that brings down the character? Hubris.
True.
And honestly, I think that's what we're going to watch unfold. I mean, even Rand Paul, not my favorite person.
Yeah.
Acted, in my opinion, with complete arrogance. And now, what do we have? COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, who else? There's a couple others. A couple of guys that I didn't, Ted self-quarantined, Ted Cruz. I'm not sure how many of them are actually going to get it. I'm sure they're just walking around with hand sanitizer and, disinfectant
Probably,
spray.
but, it's just our lawmakers are right there. They're in the center. Everyone can see what they're doing. And you have some that are very concerned, and then you have some that are acting like they're invincible. And this is not a well-reasoned approach.
Yeah.
They're not, for the lack of a better term, role modeling what I think a proper response is. Now we have this battle because they're starting to realize the economy is going to take a huge hit.
That's the talk now, isn't it? That's the talk.
You saw what was happening here in China. Why did you think that you were going to be exempt from it? That's where I think the hubris is.
I must have read a dozen articles about how China is seriously considering the idea that their new growth is going to be horribly crippled and possibly even set them back if they don't get back to work. So within 3 weeks, there's talk, and within another month, Wuhan is open.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe we should just be taking a lesson.
The shutdown is very difficult for everybody involved, and China acted with swift brutality in that, and I respect that. I don't think any
a little bit shy of welding people into their apartment building, but
right. But then you get into the issue of compliance. You have some people that just flat out refuse.
That's true. Do you remember right as the virus broke, there were stories about how Chinese citizens were leaving Wuhan, and a couple of them flew out. One of them to the U.S.
Yeah.
And one to France.
Right, but the irony now is that the United States has become the epicenter, and all of the Chinese nationals that have naturalized as other citizens are doing their best or tried to get on the last flights home before the borders close.
Yeah.
No, like for me, this is utter selfishness.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we haven't actually closed our borders. There's thousands of flights moving in and out of the U.S.
That's just the thing. I don't think the U.S. wants to take the economic hit. I think the U.S. believes that it's going to be, exempt from the worst of it.
Well, there's also the whole racism angle that's been played heavy against Trump. He closed that, January 29th? 29th.
The airlines started seeing reduced demand for flights, and they started pulling them back.
It's an odd thing how it's coming in increments because everybody's very afraid of labels and being perceived as being too authoritarian.
I don't even think that's his concern. I mean, by looking at the trend of his discussion and his press conferences and stuff, I don't think he really... I'm going to try and give the guy benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You know how much I hate him.
I do.
Him.
No,
But maybe in the beginning, it was just trying to tell everybody, relax, panic, this isn't going to be that bad. And then it was, egg on our face, wow, this is really getting out of hand. I don't think there was enough courage to act swiftly in the beginning because of the backlash that Americans would enact. Because they would.
Yep, and You're
curbing my freedom, I have constitutional rights, I don't care about public health.
Yeah.
because individualism is written.
Florida
into our
beaches are
psyche.
proving it. They're still going out on the Florida beaches.
But for the record, those are not millennials. They are Generation Z. Millennials have children, they have families, they're at home.
Nobody's blaming the millennials.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
they
saying,
are. Look online.
Are they really?
We millennials have had to be very clear. This is not the millennials. This is Generation Z.
I was listening to
talk
Tim
to
Pool the other day, and I guess maybe he said something fairly similar. He every once in a while sees really good points about the State of the Union, and so I listened to him along with, God, everybody I can get my hands on, all the way up and down the spectrum, because honestly, I don't know enough about. Maybe it's my own form of panic, because I don't feel comfortable saying he's wrong, he's right.
Right.
And I think for as much as you can hate Donald Trump for, I don't think he's been given a fair shake. And so I have a tendency to still feel like I need to listen to what he's saying and need to listen to what his opponents are saying and somehow come to something somewhere in the middle. Because I think that there's it seems like everybody's one of those big flailing things in front of a car dealership right now. I think everybody is really out of their minds.
The inflatable man is doing the dance.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Like I said, it's panic, it's stress. Nobody knows what's coming tomorrow and what the toll's going to be in the end. And our society in America does not operate on guarantee. It operates theoretically on merit and hard work. But what do you do when the rug is pulled out from under you and that opportunity is being pulled back?
Yeah.
And you're being told to stay home. You're not coming into work. Oh, by the way, we're laying you off. I mean, the last time I think it's been this bad was probably in the Great Depression. I read one report predicting...
Could be. Economically, we're not there yet, but we are right on the precipice. You're absolutely right.
And that's scary.
你好，我要一个啤酒。Yeah.
再来一个vodka soda. There we are, our alcoholic behaviors are
Brittany and I
documented.
were literally laughing out loud at our lack of ability to use Chinese when we need to use Chinese.
I am one of the worst foreigners. I didn't study much Chinese because I was working. But, this situation... I'm glad to see things like the stimulus thing, but I have been saying this for the last year. I think, in my belief, we need an FDR type of Democrat in office. I really believe we need social programming to stabilize our country because I feel like I've been seeing this economic crash coming for quite some time. It doesn't, for me, I don't want to get involved in talking about where it originates and why and all of that.
Sure.
My beliefs, whatever. But I really feel like this is the time for FDR New Deal policies to stabilize our country. I don't think a $2 trillion stimulus package is going to have much dent.
Well, especially forged in panic. As much as I resented the way Nancy Pelosi came back in and stopped everything cold, and then inserted 60 different things that have nothing to do with the immediate situation, I feel like, and this is feelings, so bear with that part of it, that this is something that could have waited a week.
Yeah.
With everybody saying, well, we can't take the time to hone it down. I'm like, you could have waited a week.
Yeah, but aren't all politicians, to some extent, opportunists?
Well, and fearful. And fearful that people will say, well, he let people die. I'm like, people are going to die. Okay? So now that we know that, now we need something that's really going to solve that or even put a cap on it. I need my politicians to be metered and central on that issue. And nobody's talking that way. Nobody. Yeah. Everybody's like, you screwed us up. We had a deal. Nancy, you screwed us up. Nancy's saying, I made it better, blah, blah, blah. It's all crazy.
And it's everybody. And I'm going to tell you,
everybody, literally.
I follow my state representatives, my senators, and my one lone House rep on Twitter.
Yeah, I've been following Jay Inslee, who's governor of Washington.
And what I've been disgusted with is the amount of, insulting comments that go back and forth. And I'm going to tell you, I'll just say, I'm from Wyoming. We have House Representative Lynn Cheney, and I think she is a disgusting human being. She's from the Cheney family. She is born into privilege.
Oh, Cheney.
Yes, and she's a We will call her carpetbagger. She has lived in Virginia, and then she sees political opportunity come home to Wyoming, and now she was elected.
Hillary Clinton, New York
So
style.
she's sitting on her little pedestal on Twitter, throwing, insults at the other side, and I'm just disgusted because for me, this is not what Wyomingites are supposed to behave like.
Isn't that
And here
wild?
she is, and I'm like, you are a vile human being. Oh wait, you went to law school. And
it took me a second to get that joke.
I don't know. That's where I'm just disgusted. But it's across the boards. I'm seeing.
Oh yeah, I'm by no means am I defending conservatives or the Republican Party in this particular situation because I don't believe that should be the issue right now. I have different beliefs than you, but we have managed without pressure to work together or to talk together or to enjoy each other's friendship. I found that with Mark, who could not be more socialist, and I find that most people I run across think differently than I do. What I find flabbergasting is that people think that what they're doing for themselves is more important than what they signed up to do or what they were voted in to do. And this gets back to your theory about the loss of the idea of public service.
Yeah.
I got to admit, that's the kind of attitude you expect from young men. It's about me. It's about whatever it is about.
Yeah, but how many of our senators have been enriched by their office? I mean, Mitch McConnell, I'm going to attack him because I hate him.
Yeah.
But how much has his personal portfolio grown since he's been in
Yes,
office?
and Nancy Pelosi as well. And you look at these
Right.
people and you go, how does a government official end up being a multi-millionaire?
Correct. And that's when I want to start asking about where are anti-corruption measures? When are they going to be investigated?
When is it going to be
possibly
real?
Thrown into jail? Then we have senators who, it was uncovered, dumped a bunch of stock after being briefed on coronavirus.
Yeah, both sides of the aisle. Blew me away. I'm like, oh, really?
Right,
You didn't-
and
and
I'm
all either directly or indirectly associated with the National Security Council. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My favorite meme that week was Martha Stewart. I'm waiting when you're going to throw him in jail. Seriously, why are we not following through? Like, I've had that question for a while. Like, subpoenas were issued and nobody complied. Why did they not go to jail?
Yeah.
So we have a double standard now. Lawmakers mean that, the law's inconvenient, then whatever.
Yeah. I think that's really true. Especially now, and it's like you said, this particular adversarial situation, this virus is showing true colors. I love Cyndi Lauper. I had the biggest crush on her. Oh my God.
I was a kid. I still remember.
I still do.
Time after time. And she'd like running with her multicolored hair out of that trailer.
Yeah.
That music
crazy
video.
look she had.
Right.
What's fun to hear her do it is now in her 50s with a zither.
Her voice is just silk. It's just the way it has matured since that time.
Well, she's one of those singers who can actually sing.
Yeah.
She's not Britney Spears. She's Christina Aguilera can sing. Actually
she
sing.
was actually classically trained, if I remember.
That may be very true. There's a number of actual singers out there, and there's a lot of pop stars who are,
Right.
Thank you, James. There is much more we could talk about, and maybe we will again in the future. I really appreciate you doing this with me. It's
been a pleasure. It's been great to catch up with you. You and I can sit and chat away the day. So
yeah, absolutely true. So, and we may just do that because we've got fresh drinks, as you heard us order. So, did you ride your bike today?
I did.
Yeah. How's it going?
Oh man, the wind in my non-existing hair.
Yeah.
Great.
I
just
love
the
that
freedom.
feeling. I love
But I
that.
saw your new bike. It's looking pretty spiffy.
Yeah. Well, I got the new things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The handlebar mounted mirrors.
The mirrors.
And then I had a seat like yours, but I needed something a little wider for my particular frame. And so I bought a fairly normal seat, a regular motorcycle seat. Yeah, smoother seat. And outside of that, I haven't really done anything. I had some trouble with it early on. We're talking about Sacco motorcycles, electric motorcycles. The guy sold it to me, but the charger was bad, and I plugged it in to the side charger, and it blew my system.
Oh God.
Yeah, burned out everything. My speedometer, a lot of stuff, but I could still ride it. But it had this like glitchy feel to it, and it was horrible. So I did that for a month because I couldn't find anything because the factory was closed.
Oh, that's right.
Here in China.
Everything was closed down because of the virus.
They opened that up and kaboom. It came so quickly, it was crazy. which, by the way, I also wanted to mention that Taobao seems to be back online. You know what I mean?
Back on,
the deliveries, they're outside of you're still blocked. You have to walk to the edge of your neighborhood, which is a pain in the ass. I'm so used to going, thank you for the hamburgers. They're outside my door.
You know, if we were at home, I'd say first world problem.
Yeah, absolutely right. What a first world problem that is in a second world country. But things seem to be coming back online.
Well, yeah, you know, these businesses need to operate, so we're just going to adapt and change how we go about it. We just can't get delivery to our door, so we have to walk down and out of our building.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, but, you know.
How will I survive?
Come on. We get McDonald's delivered to our door here in China. You cannot get that at home.
That's true. Well, yeah, that's true.
McDonald's,
you get
sex toys, beer.
Oh, my God, everything. I literally had a mop and bucket delivered to my door because my mop had broken.
Yeah. Like, the Chinese have got that figured out.
They do. They absolutely do. Well, anyway, thank you very much, James.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
It has, in fact. All right.